Welcome to the Morgan Thomas Show. Thank you for joining us tonight. Morgan, Allen, and Houston are Clemson fans and graduates. Each show, the guys will give you their authentic opinion on the biggest Clemson sports topics. You can follow them on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search for at the Morgan Thomas Show. You can also listen to them on 105.5 FM The Roar. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to stay up to date on all of Morgan's exclusive Clemson content he puts out every single week. Let's get this party started. Now here's Morgan Thomas.
What's up, Tiger fans? It's Morgan here, back again with the Morgan Thomas Show Thursday night. A little bit behind schedule just because we had some technical difficulties, if you can believe it or not. That's just a way of life when you're working with me. And Alan, I'm sure, will be happy and eager to tell you about all the fumbling that I did before the show started. But thank you for getting in. Those of you who are in now, those of you who maybe have friends that didn't tune in right at 7, maybe you'd give them a text and let them know that we are live tonight. So thank you so much for getting in and being a part of the show. Again, welcome in. This is the Morgan Thomas Show every Thursday night, 7 p.m., talking all things Clemson athletics. We look forward to it. We got a good show for you. We want to get into it because, again, the delay there. But again, the Morgan T Show on Twitter, the Morgan T Show on YouTube, the Morgan T Show on Instagram. So you can follow me anywhere and everywhere there. But the main place that I am is on YouTube and Instagram. So follow me there. Not just a show about me, though, even though it has my name on it. Let me bring in my lovely and beautiful co-hosts, Mr. Houston Burnett and Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome in, fellas. Thank you for being so patient with me. We'll leave Alan aside for now. We'll start with Houston. Thank you for being patient, Houston.
And I thought I was going to be running late. It's crazy. I was like, oh man, I'm going to be behind, and here we are.
Here we are. Yes. We're not behind. We're not late. Actually, I was the one that was behind and late. So, I'm not going to say it was me. I'm going to blame the electronic devices because that's the right thing to do. Right, Al?
Yeah, look, your little preemptive strike just takes all the fun out of it. All right, so yeah, we had no delays. You had delays. Period.
Well, again, I'm back again. I'm glad to have the show back in. I've got a lot of things to talk about. Make sure you get in the chat because it's not just a show about us, for sure. It's a show about you as well, and we want to get your discussions. We have a few topics that we wanted to discuss on some recruiting side of things because I believe this weekend is like the Elite Junior Day. So a lot of big time names coming in to visit Clemson and to see what's going on. Maybe some of those guys are already in town and watching the Morgan Thomas Show, just getting amped up for their experience here at Clemson. So looking forward to that. Can't wait to talk about that. Hey, get in the chat, give us a shout out, tell us where you are, what you're doing, and what kind of questions you may have for tonight because we want to get into it. But fellas, since we kind of had a little bit of delay, I was thinking maybe we just get into it. Maybe.
Giddy up.
Sure.
So the first thing is I wanted to talk about, which was the guys that are coming in this weekend. There were a couple of guys that I thought were pretty interesting to note, and also a new commit, or not commit, but new offer for the Tigers on the board for the 2024 recruiting class, because that's really what we're talking about now is the 2024 class. The 2023 class is pretty much all said and done, right? So moving on to the 2024 class, what guys that Clemson is looking at and might be interested in, and some of the guys that we think are, higher up on the list for us, at least. Let's start with, the most popular position, I guess, and a guy that I believe will be coming this weekend, and that is the quarterback position. They've got a guy named Walker White. Let me put up a picture here of him here. You see him, Walker White, 6'3". Excuse me. Sorry. Let me mute my site here. Okay, so 6'3", 215 pounds, Little Rock Christian Academy, Little Rock, Arkansas, 2024 guy. Right now, a 4-star overall commit prospect for the 2024 class, 13th best quarterback in the class. Third offer for the quarterback position for the Tigers. Some changes in the quarterback room. As you know, there's no longer Brandon Streeter there, who was the quarterback coach. Now it's Garrett Riley, who's going to be the quarterback coach / offensive coordinator. Let's start with the first question there. I'll start with you, Alan. Do you think that, there's much make up ground that you have to do when you make a change like this from Streeter to Riley, or you think it just kind of picks up right where you left off?
Well, it really depends on the relationships they had with the other guys. I mean, and Streeter, obviously, a good personality, somebody that can bond with a recruit, no doubt. But when you're going to bring in some guy like Garrett Riley, who's a big splash name and who's well known and is very good at what he does, I don't know that it's going to matter too much. And I'm pretty sure he might have been involved with this guy at TCU as well, so that's not going to hurt anything. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a big deal in this particular instance.
Houston, what are your thoughts on Walker White, and how much ground do you think that Garrett Riley needs to make up?
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily making up ground. I mean, there's two schools that's going to be particularly tough to pull from, considering he's not really in the footprint Clemson generally recruits from for quarterbacks. But look, Clemson's gone out to California and Texas in 2 out of the last 3 classes and pulled out some big time names there. So kind of the expanded footprint already kind of helps them. But you're also dealing with a guy who has a legacy family, deep entrenched at Arkansas. I know they're involved. Ole Miss is involved with that offense, but I think Riley really helps out with his style, implementing that. Personally, I like his film probably the best out of the 3 quarterback offers in this class. And I think that his style of play matches better what Garrett Riley does. So I feel like Clemson's in the thick of it. I think him coming to the junior day is a huge deal. I think that means we're definitely in contention, or Clemson's in contention, and we'll just have to see how the chips fall.
Yeah, I like his film, and I think that's something that I wanted to get into real quick, is just kind of take a look at some of his film. Let me pull over to our horizontal highlight scene. How you guys like this, huh? Yeah? You like it? Little iPhone, little sideways iPhone, little vertical
Android
mode. You like it? I'm not getting a lot of feedback. Come on, give me some I need some praise and appreciation here for this.
I do like it, without a doubt.
Houston, you like it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I love it.
So let's pull up some of the video for Walker White and see. This is his midseason highlights, 2024 guy. Again, Little Rock Christian Academy in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I mean, there's a lot to love with Walker White. He has let's see, he has over 20, he has right now 24 total offers, and you're looking at Arkansas, Auburn, Clemson, Ole Miss, Texas A&M are all schools. Recently had some unofficial visits at Baylor, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Miami offered him as well. To me, they don't really, it doesn't seem like they kind of list guys as like pro or dual as much as they used to back in the past. But this is a guy who has that kind of nice baseball throw of a throw there. Kind of looks like a baseball player when he throws. He's just very hard thrower, and man, he can zip it. But also, he makes moves with his feet. As you can see here, man, look at that cut move and to the outside, just so quick, getting a first down there. I have been on record of saying he has a lot of the same kind of like gamer aspects of a guy like a Johnny Manziel type. I love what he can do, how he can make plays with his feet. Look at him just sprinting. He has that long stride, and it's hard to catch up with him when he gets going. But again, he has that threat with the arm and can turn around and give you the same threat with his feet as well. As you can see, as with most guys in high school that we see Clemson go after, he is running a similar style offense that Clemson would possibly run with Garrett Riley. So got that, big stretched out spread. So I like it. I think that there's a lot to like from the film, at least from his midseason junior year. Now, keep in mind, this guy's a junior. Next year, 2023. Well, this year, 2023, he's going to be a senior. So we'll have more film, probably go over that again later on this year. But for right now, with his junior film, Houston, what's your thoughts?
I think a better comp for him would be Baker Mayfield. If you want to talk about similar offenses between maybe Garrett and Lincoln Riley, he's not quite necessarily as just jackrabbit fast as maybe Johnny Manziel, but he's slippery, and he's very heady with how he does. I think some of the other players that you see with Clemson's film might, you might question whether or not they make a move into the pocket and they might be a statue, or maybe not a statue, but they're not quite as mobile with their decision making. This guy clearly is. He doesn't mind getting outside the pocket or making a move in order to find somebody downfield. And that's kind of like what Baker Mayfield's MO was. Yeah, sure, he'll sit in the pocket, but if he needs to get outside, he'll do it. And we know how successful he was in college.
Big Al, what's your thoughts on Walker White's film?
Yeah, look, I love the guy's film. I actually agree with what Houston said a few minutes ago in the fact that he said he likes him the best amongst the quarterback candidates. I do as well, from what I've seen so far. I mean, I think he's got prototypical size, great arm, throws a really catchable ball. You can see from his film he hits a lot of runners in stride. And when you're talking about escaping out of the pocket, and, he continues to look downfield to try to make a play. He's very accurate on the run, throwing on the run. He's got advanced route throwing. I mean, he's throwing a bunch of back shoulders in some of these clips that we're seeing. And I mean, that's a difficult throw to make, especially at the high school level. And he does it really well. Just really good pocket presence. And he, like y'all mentioned, he's kind of a dual threat, got the running ability, kind of sneaky fast kind of guy. And I really like this kid. I think he's got a lot to work with.
Some of the quotes that I've seen online, he originally visited in Dabo Swinney's camp in June, so they're familiar with him. Obviously, Brandon Streeter no longer there. He says to the Clemson Insider, "Streeter's not there anymore, so I had created a relationship with him, and obviously Coach Dabo Swinney. I've talked to offensive analyst Taj Boyd the whole staff up there has been great. And then obviously I have a relationship with Coach Riley from TCU. He had offered me at TCU, so hopefully he shows just as much interest in me for Clemson. I'm excited to see all what they are looking for in me. The first time I was up there, I really loved it. Obviously the campus is beautiful. I'm just waiting to see one more time before I make my decision, hopefully around May or June, one of the two. Every time I talk to the coaches, I grow to like Clemson more and more." Hey, that's some good quotes there over on the Clemson Insider. I like what I hear from Walker White in that situation. Obviously, it seems like Clemson still is on the table with Jaden Davis as well. So there's two guys out there for the quarterback position for Clemson, but there's not a lot to hate about Walker White. To me, I wouldn't mind having Walker White. I think he is a all-around real just great quarterback, and I look forward to seeing some of the comments after Junior Day. Guys, this weekend, how important is it for Clemson and recruiting this weekend for the 2024 recruiting class? Al?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, Elite Junior Day is kind of one of Clemson's big events that they like to put on, and they always do a really good job with this. Obviously, very selective of who they bring in, and they're going to be hosting a ton of big names this weekend. So there's a lot to like about what's going on, and you got a fresh face like Garrett Riley, a new face, and renewed optimism around the offense. I think it's going to be a really big weekend for Clemson, and hopefully they can hit a high rate of these guys that come into this that will eventually be commits.
Yeah, get in the comments. Let us know what you think and what you think about Walker White. We're going to look at the comments real quick and see what we think or what you think in the chat. We got a couple people in the chat right now. I know it's a little bit late because we were behind on the technical issues, but thank you again for getting in. Let's go through and get some shout outs through. Kevron Harris, obviously our greatest fan. Hi, Morgan Thomas, Big Al, Alan Adams, Houston Burnett, Go Tigers from Cope, South Carolina. Ship happens. All right. John Chancey says, no matter how early I get into the chat, I'm always second to Kevron. That is very true. Very true. Joey is watching, and thank you, Dad, for watching. When is the spring football game? Well, that's interesting to say because the spring football game is, I believe, second or third week of April. I don't know, Houston, Al, if you have that pulled up or want to check it out and see. I can't really remember. Last year, I think it was April 9th.
If you look at the Clemson baseball schedule, they tip their hand. The only game that Clemson doesn't have a baseball time scheduled for is Saturday, April 15th.
Oh, well, there you go. Nice little insider from the baseball team. Thank you, Houston. I like that. So maybe April 15th could be it. That's interesting time too. Houston, Al, I noticed, well, I'll start with you, Houston. I noticed when I was looking back, I went back and looked at some of the guys that were offered for this class. So obviously we're 2023. A lot of these guys, all the offers went out in 2022. So, most of them, right? The majority of them went out for the 2024. So they're like 2 years ahead, right? So that means, guess what? We're 2023. So 2025 is getting up soon. It's crazy to think 2025 is getting up soon. Now, Sammy Brown, the linebacker, was the first guy to get offered. I believe he's also coming to town this weekend. He's the best linebacker I've ever seen. I love his film. I love it. I mean, I can't stop drooling over the guy. But it seems like, if you think about 2025, these guys there's going to be an offer coming soon, maybe in March, maybe in April. One of these 2025 guys that comes to spring that they really love, that they really feel high on, is probably going to get offered. I haven't looked at any of the 2025 guys, but it's just interesting to see. Talking about the spring game is also kind of getting started around that same time for 2025. It's amazing how these football teams have to do things and be so far ahead of the game to keep in on it. Houston, your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, Al, do you remember when those offers were offered last year? It also tips your hand on when it'll probably go out next year or this year.
No, I don't. Go ahead. Hit us with some knowledge, Houston.
June 1st. June 1st is when all the offers go out for the junior classes this year. That's when Sammy Brown, Heaven Schuler Brown, and there was another linebacker, and I'm blanking on it.
Well, Sammy Brown was offered in March. Heaven Schuler Brown was offered at the spring game, and DJ Lagway was offered May 31st. And then they had a big group of guys offered on the 1st, a big group of guys offered on the 2nd, and then they had like 2 or 3 guys offered every week after that throughout the month of June. So June is like that time for the big group for sure.
Yeah, and that's generally how they operate. I mean, obviously they make some exceptions for like Sammy Brown. If he's going to be in town for the spring game, you're going to make that offer, right? If you don't know if you're going to get him back in the summer or whatever, he's a pretty active guy. Same with Heaven Schuler Brown. He's a pretty solid guy. And obviously, May 31st for DJ Lagway, well, that's a day before. So whatever there. I mean, as far as 2025, I don't have as much insight because, you don't – Clemson, even though they're getting ahead on a lot of guys, they are intentionally slow playing a lot of their offers. You see a lot of these programs offering guys, in their 10th grade, 9th grade, 8th grade, even 7th grade years. At some of these schools. So I think Clemson actually does a lot of due diligence on these players, watches how they develop all that. And then once they get to their junior year, they have a solid idea of who's going to be one of the type of guys that will fit their program or be that type of player. So I'm not really sure who yet. I think there's some hints at some of the guys that they're doing. I know that they've been talking extensively to a few quarterbacks and wide receivers, but who knows? That could all change. I know that they always have some surprises, especially when you get to that June 1st area. But I'm looking forward to it. I think this is a fun time of year, and I think Clemson is really always seems to take well when, when they're trying to rejuvenate or when they've kind of got their proverbial backs against the wall. They always come out slinging when it comes to recruiting season.
Well, I appreciate everybody getting in on the chat. Thank you so much. And if you haven't already, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of my exclusive Clemson content I put out every single week with the help of Big Al and Mr. Houston Burnett. Again, that was Walker White, quarterback 2024 recruiting class. Looking forward to seeing what he can do and how far Clemson can go with him. Seems like he has a decent relationship with the coaches right now. 4-star overall, 13th best quarterback in the class. Again, as Houston mentioned, from Arkansas. So a little bit different of a state from what Clemson is used to going after, but I think he is a good pickup for them. Another guy I wanted to bring up is KJ Bolden. This guy is, one of those top guys to me. I don't know. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you watch his film, there's not a ton to hate about KJ Bolden. He's listed as a safety, but in high school, he literally does a little bit about everything. He's a 5-star overall, #1 safety in the country, 4th best player in the country, 2nd best player in Georgia, according to 24/7 Sports Composite, from Beaufort High School in Beaufort, Georgia, which is a high school that Clemson's very familiar with. obviously one of the better high schools out there. So look forward to seeing what they can do and the kind of relationship that they can build with him. Rumor is he's also going to be there for Junior Day this weekend. So if he's watching the video, KJ, we love you. And, we hope you have a good weekend and, call us. But anyway, 6'1" athlete, safety, wide receiver, can do it all, 185 pounds. Now, I got caught with this. All right. So I did an interview with David Eziomume, running back for 2024's class. I did it for Clemson Sports Talk website.com. And I said the height and weight of David. And he was like, nah, bro. That's like 3 years ago. He's like, that's like 3 years ago. I'm way bigger than that. I hit the gym. So take the prospect info with a grain of salt here because, you never know. He might not even be 185 anymore. He might be 200. David was listed as 6 foot 175, but he told me he's 6'1", 200. So, I mean, again, a lot can happen. They don't always keep these databases completely up to date, but that's what we have right now to go by. Again, the guy has 36 total offers. You're talking Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Colorado, all kinds of big out there offers. Verified results for 24/7 Sports as of last April. Again, not even last April, two Aprils ago in 2021, he ran a sub 11 second 100 meters. So this guy is fast. I got his film that we're going to go over, but you'll be able to see immediately how fast KJ is when we look at his film. But Al, we'll start with you, unless I was supposed to start with Houston. I don't know. But again, KJ Bolden, first thoughts on him.
Yeah, look, I really hope Clemson can hit a home run with him this weekend. I think it's very big. He's definitely top of my wish list as far as DBs are concerned. I would imagine he'll be a tough pull from a Georgia or an Alabama or somebody like that. But, if anybody's going to sneak up and do it, it would be Clemson, I would imagine. He's got good size, really good hands, great speed, as you mentioned before. You got to love the versatility, the fact that, a lot of his highlights are at receiver as well. Really physical, good hips, can flip those really fast, which is very important in a DB. Great footwork. He's got really good ability to diagnose plays early, and he can break on the ball early because of that. I think he tracks the ball really well in the air, which, obviously playing receiver, that helps with this as well. And he maintains eye contact with the QB, which is something I love when they do that at defensive back. And I think, a lot of that, I think, goes back to being a receiver. A lot of these skills you can hone in at receiver, and you're able to take those to DB and make some big plays. So, yeah, this guy's at the top of my board for the DBs for sure.
First of all, what's the deal with the chat? We got over 30 people in the chat right now or watching live. Nobody's in the chat. Get in the chat. Tell us what you think. This is KJ Bolden. I love what I'm seeing so far, man. Just look how fast this guy is to the outside. He gets it, and he is freaking blazing fast. You can tell he's an elite athlete. He plays cornerback. He plays safety. He plays wide receiver. He's got great hip movement. He gets in and out of his breaks really well. And as many of you have said in the chat in the past when we talked about him, why not, if you want a safety, why not have a guy that's also a great wide receiver, because he's going to high point that ball, he's going to catch it, bring it down. And the guy is so blazing fast. Look at him on a kickoff return here, just taking it to the house. Houston, is there anything not to like about this guy?
The first thing I would do when he gets here is put him on kick return or punt return. As great as he is in the secondary at corner and safety, which he is, I feel like there is a necessity for at least him to have the ball in his hands in some form or fashion, whether it's a gadget play if you don't play him that much at wide receiver. But I think he at least needs to be on kickoff because he's too fast not to be. And then on top of that, he's an excellent secondary player. The way that he's able to, look, anytime that they have him on screen, he makes a connection and he lets them know that he is one of the most elite athletes in this class. He can stick somebody, and I can appreciate that. I don't want to compare him one-to-one to Travis Hunter, but there's a lot of similarities. Obviously, they play both sides of the ball. I think he's where Travis Hunter is probably a better wide receiver than corner, even though he's very good at both. I think that KJ Bolden is probably a better corner or safety type than a wide receiver. And that's kind of crazy to say considering what you're watching on your screen. He can do it all. That's not a slight to his wide receiving ability. He's an excellent wide receiver. But I think there's a reason that you have somebody like this in your secondary if they can play like the way they do.
Yeah, he's excited to come this weekend and see what Clemson's all about. He's been going to Clemson, from what I'm reading, since he was like in elementary school, which is kind of interesting to see. These guys from Georgia, they come and camp with Clemson a ton. You got Sammy Brown says he's been coming to Clemson since he was 10 years old. KJ Bolden says he's been coming to Clemson a ton. We talked about Walker White earlier today. This is not his first time to Clemson. So these relationships are there. What I really like is these relationships are there from like when they're kids. I mean, these guys are kids to us because we're 36, but these guys are, like literally elementary school kids coming to camp and getting to see what the coaches are like. And I mean, Dabo Swinney has been there for since these guys have been around. I mean, since these guys have been that age, right? So I think that's another big thing for Clemson is that Dabo has been that face of the program for quite some time. You obviously know that with being a safety, Mickey Kahn is there, and he's going to recruit him heavily. Mickey Kahn's very familiar with the Georgia area recruiting, being a former Georgia high school head coach there as well. So, I like what I see again from KJ Bolden. You want somebody, when we see 5-star guys, especially in the secondary, they don't just play secondary. They play wide receiver, kickoff return, and then they have elite speed and just great hips, great instincts. They're just a playmaker on both sides of the ball, and typically one of the top state guys in their state. And really, KJ Bolden checks every single one of those boxes for for a 5-star guy. So I think anywhere he goes, he's going to be electric. I look forward to seeing what he does as a freshman. I think this guy let me say this. Is this a kind of guy, Al, that would actually just like be a day one kind of starter type like talent?
Well, look, Clemson recruits pretty well in the secondary. So you never, in safety, they've got a lot to learn back there. So, I don't like to project people as day one starters, especially in at this particular position. I think cornerback's a little easier to do that with. But if anybody is, I would say KJ Bolden would be.
Houston, you seem to agree.
Oh yeah, I fully agree. I mean, kind of like Al, I don't think anybody's necessarily comfortable being like, this freshman will be a day one starter, unless they're Jadeveon Clowney or whatever. But once again, he's got the ability to do it. So I don't want to discount that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I like what I see again, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say after this weekend. We'll be looking out for that. All right, so that's our second kind of highlight or player review for the 2024 recruiting class. Kind of fun to do these. I'm glad to get back to doing these. John Sarian gets in and says, read that Georgia is going hard after Bolden. Now, there's something I got to say about that. Who do they not go hard after that Clemson also goes hard after? I mean, seriously. It's like Kirby Smart's, destiny to try to steal anything and everything from Dabo Swinney. Agree? What are your thoughts on that, Al?
There's a lot of truth in that. I mean, that's one of our most fertile recruiting grounds is in Georgia, so there's going to be a lot of overlap there. It's going to happen, and most of those guys, grow up dog fans, so it's a tough pull for sure. Clemson has won their fair share of battles. The good news is the battles they have won have been for the Trevor Lawrences and the Deshaun Watsons of the world, and that's why we were able to get to the national championship. So we got to keep winning those battles. We got to win the ones that count.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a truth to that, but I mean, it's not just him. There's other coaches that do that will copycat offers. You've seen that from Gus Malzahn. You've seen that from Jimbo Fisher. You've seen that from Shane Beamer, Kirby Smart. It's going to keep on happening. Mario Cristobal, all these guys do that because they know that Clemson has a pretty good eye for talent. But once again, as Al said, Georgia's a fertile recruiting ground. Look at how many per capita prospects come out of that state. There's going to be a ton of those, and Georgia's going to go after all of those. So is it surprising? No.
Big Load says he's the first like. Well, be like Big Load and give us our first like. Give us our second like. Give us our third like. All right? So go into the chat. Go over there. They got about 30 people watching over on YouTube right now. Please get in and hit the like button, because if you hit the like button, then more people will see this video that are Clemson fans or college football fans, and they will tune in for sure. So thank you so much, Big Load, for that. I know, Houston. I just can't help myself. I just can't. Joey Thomas gets in and says, who is our next kicker? Well, I put out a post, Al, and Al, I won't say Al. I'll say Houston. I put out a post, Houston, because I'm so self-conscious that I don't start with Houston sometimes. So I got to start with Houston here. All right, so Houston. Now, here's the deal. I put out a post and I said, who has the biggest shoes to fill? Now, my first thought was, well, I think that Wade Woodaz filling in for Trenton Simpson is going to be a big task for him, even though I think he showed that he could handle it when Trenton Simpson was out. So I do feel like he has the skills and abilities, and he just needs to get more experience to add to that. So I'm not necessarily worried. It's not about worry or anxiety. It's just about shoes to fill, stepping up to that expectation that the previous person that's going to the NFL left. Now, I had a ton of people, including Walt Deptula, said, no holds barred. There's no question. It is the left tackle. Tristan Lee, you haven't seen a ton of him. I assume he's going to be that incumbent guy stepping in, but it could be someone else if he doesn't show out. Now, he's a 5-star guy, so you never know. But there's no guarantees. But, a lot of people said left tackle. But then, as I was thinking about it, I also mentioned, what about kicker? Because BT Potter has left an amazing legacy with Clemson football, and he is no longer on the team after all these years. Okay? Because he's a graduate, a senior plus, 5-year Clemson career from 2018 to 2022, one of the most prolific kickers in Clemson and ACC and NCAA history, finished a career 73 of 97 on field goals. That's 75%. 234 of 235 on point after attempts, 99.6%. Tied James Skalski, Will Sweeney's Clemson record for career games played at 69. Matched Spires and Sweeney for the most consecutive games played, 69. Concluded Clemson's tenure holding career records for field goals with 73, point after attempts with 234, points by a place kicker with 453, consecutive point after touchdowns made. For the first 122 and last 112 of his career on either side of his was alone. I don't even know what I'm just saying, but starts by a place kicker. He started 54 games and he had the most yards and field goals, 2,716 yards. I could just go on. That's just half of what I'm seeing on Clemson.com. It's just kind of strung together. So, I'm getting dry mouth here saying it all. But Houston, who's replacing him? I think I know. But for those people out there that don't know, who's replacing him, and how big of shoes is that to fill?
Well, Robert Gunn seems to be the heir apparent to that. We haven't seen much of him yet. Everybody is going to be a little bit on the edge of their seat, considering you've had a kicker for however long we've had with what you just said with BT Potter, and he was a very, very good kicker. It might take some time. I think we've had plenty of kickers who in their first year at Clemson don't necessarily do that amazing and then end up having a solid career. Chandler Canton-Zero is a prime example. Wasn't necessarily the best kicker in 2010, but 2011, 2012, he had some big kicks, and he was, a solid kicker for Clemson. I think Robert Gunn will end up being that way. I think he can be a solid backup. I also think with some changes in personnel in our special teams area, I think having a fresh voice in there to be able to get to him earlier, and maybe, hone him in, could maybe see, hopefully not a lot of drop off there. I know that he's got the leg strength. It's really just getting him the experience out there, and I think that could be a good thing for Clemson.
Robert Gunn, 6 foot, 180 pounds, freshman, Seminole, Florida, Pinellas Park High School. He didn't appeared in 3 games already as a redshirt. Let's see. He had 1 PAT attempt, produced a touchback on all 5 of his kickoffs. made his debut against Georgia Tech towards the end, I believe. Made the final point after attempt at that game. Had a touchback against Furman and touchbacks in both kickoffs versus Louisiana Tech. He helped his high school team reach a 9-2 record in 2021, was ranked the 7th best kicker in the nation by Prep Star, all conference selection at both punter and place kicker in 2020 and 2021. Played in the USA versus Japan All-Star game at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas in 2020. Recorded field goals of 40 and 50 yards in that game. Had 52 touchbacks on 55 kickoffs in his final 2 years of high school. Al, it seems like Robert Gunn is legit and could be the next great kicker for Clemson. What are your thoughts? Are you excited about it or worried about it?
I would say I'm more indifferent about it because the kicker just always seems to work out for the most part when it comes to Clemson. Like you said, as Houston was talking about, Catanzaro was not really good his first year, and then he became one of the best kickers we've ever had. And of course, you got BT Potter, who's had a great career. I think what's frustrating about BT Potter is he had a terrible last game, and that's what everybody seems to remember, and that's all they seem to remember. And yeah, not a good time, not a bad day to have a bad day, as they like to say. But still, he was unbelievable over his career, and that's he's the reason we won a lot of games. So yeah, I think Gunn's going to be just fine. Like Houston said, it's leg strength is not the problem. He's got plenty of that. I don't think that's an issue. Getting him experience, dealing with the nerves, that kind of stuff is what he's going to have to work on. Just that's going to come with playing time. That's going to come with experience. No big deal. I think he'll be just fine there because I think he's going to have to be the guy. I think we got another one coming in for this next class. And I don't know, maybe Peter Woods can kick the ball. I mean, he's a 5-star, right? I mean, Christian Wilkins always wanted to kick the ball, so maybe we can bring in our newly minted 5-star Peter Woods to kick some field goals if need be.
Dixon Massengale gets in, says, we definitely need more than PATs. Orange Bowl was the example. Like Al said, missing those field goals. That's kind of a one and never situation for BT Potter. Unfortunately, like you said, it was the last game of his career so at Clemson, so it's kind of a bad note there. But I agree. I think obviously you can't always count on just kicking point after but I think that there's obviously some excitement with having Garrett Riley at offensive coordinator and thinking they're going to score a ton of points and they won't need field goals. But it seems like Robert Gunn is a good guy to put in there, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, I would assume we'll start seeing some more things from him in the spring and, hear what's going on. Let's bring up another player, guys. You want to switch gears and go to another player? I'm thinking we talk about Solomon Williams, a guy who was just recently offered. I was curious to see more about him because, again, this guy is a brand new offer for the Tigers. And let me pull up some of his information real quick. And, we'll talk about him. Go figure, I didn't have it up already. But defensive end, edge, rusher, 6'3", 235 pounds, Carrollwood Day in Tampa, Florida. One of those top schools in Tampa, Florida area. Clemson's always had success down there in the Tampa area. They're not the best team down there. That'd probably be like IMG or maybe Tampa Tech. We've pulled a ton of guys from Tampa Tech, right? But Carrollwood Day is one of those, I would say, top 15 teams down there in that area. But he's right now a 3-star overall, which I don't really put a lot of stuff to, just because he's, they still not, they're still working out the rankings and seeing more of their film. But he has right now 27 total offers: Alabama, Auburn, Boston College, Clemson, Coastal Carolina. 6'3", 225 pounds. Just recently got offered from Colorado, from Texas A&M, Tennessee. So, he's starting to get noticed out there on the recruiting trail. I'll pull up some of his film. Houston, what do you think about Solomon Williams and the offer? Did it come today or was it yesterday? It was this week.
It was today. For this one, I actually like he's Tavoy Fegan's teammate. And I mean, honestly, looking at his film, I like it. I think he's one of these that one of these types of offers that Clemson prides themselves on, where you're kind of like, well, I haven't really heard of this guy. And then you look at his film and you're like, man, this guy gets after it. He makes contact. He does a lot of little things right. I noticed one of the first things in these highlights, at least in the first like 4 or 5, where he shugs off the blocker and then cuts inside when he's able to see the running back get the ball. It makes an instant impact there. He's aggressive. He is just an absolute dynamite getting into the backfield. I like this guy a lot. I think it's this play right here. Just watch him. Boom, shugs him, gets him right here. Boom, gets in the inside. Love that type of stuff. And that's more of what Clemson needs. He wreaks havoc. I think he probably needs to put a little bit of weight on, obviously, but he's got the speed to be a problem. I like what I see.
Typically, you're looking for 6'4", 260, maybe 235 would be the lowest, some more of an XT type guy. This guy, like you said, Houston, is one of those guys. He's just violent. He looks so big and just really just tackles so hard and aggressive. And I mean that I'm saying that in a fatuous way. I love it. And so I want to see more of it. And you can see here, he stands up. Al, you think he'll be standing up at Clemson? And does he have that kind of speed where he can stand up on the edge like that?
Yeah, I think he can do. I think he can, do either way. I think he can learn either one. This guy, like you said, he's a little bit shorter. He's, shorter than prototypical that you'd like. I mean, a lot of people want somebody. Everybody wants them, 7 foot, and they can run a 3.3, 40. That's what they're looking for. Everybody wants to get greedy, but this guy's plenty good enough. I absolutely love this guy's film. He's great explosion off the line. He's got some natural bend and agility to him. And it's funny that you said the word violent, because that was one of the first things I wrote down about this guy, that he was violent. And then I don't even think violent does him enough justice. And I end up writing, I think vicious is a better word for this guy, because I think this guy absolutely mauls people. And I love it. He will run around you. He will run through you, and he'll use his hands to get off blocks. I love what I see. He seems to be a high motor guy. You can see him chase some plays down. I tell you, the OL better block the gaps and know the assignment, because if there's a crease, this guy's going to find it. I think he's absolutely criminally underrated by rivals right now. I think that's going to change in a big way. The only thing not 5-star about this guy is his height.
Alan, just be ready, because what you just said, I'm turning that into a clip. I'm posting it on Twitter, and I'm tagging this young man, because, I mean, there's nothing more to say about the guy. I mean, that's the kind of praise you need. I 1000% agree with you. He is way underrated. There's no way he's just a 3-star guy. I think it's just because they need more film on him. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's some of, the fact that he's not at one of the top schools in his area. I don't know, but I mean, he is, and Carrollwood Day is one of the better schools in that area. So, I mean, like I said, not the best of the best in that area, but still, again, playing against those types of teams. So I think, as you can see, I wouldn't want to be an offensive tackle at practice, because he's going to go and beat you up. And then if you're a running back or quarterback, maybe at practice you'll be okay if you're a quarterback, but the running back's going to get bruised up for sure. They're going to get hit hard. This guy is, like I said, he just hits you hard every time. He overpowers the guy in front of him. He has this great explosiveness and quick twitch skill to just get off the snap and just get to you. I love his speed. Again, he just looks like with the way that he stands up to the outside, you're thinking, well, this guy should be a linebacker, but he's too big. He's already way too big. Like I said, with his height and weight listed on 24/7, there's no way he's going to be a linebacker, because he's already just giant. And he's a junior, or maybe even younger than a junior when these measurables were released, and he's already at 235. So, this guy's going to easily get to 260 and just, like I said, continue to just wreak havoc in the backfield. I love it. I want to see more of it. Hey, let us know what you think in the comments about Solomon Williams. I think it's great. I look forward to seeing more of his film for a senior year. Again, this is his junior year stuff. So excited to see. Let's get in the chat real quick and see what the rest of the fans are saying in there. Big Mick says he tackles. Well, that's for sure. I mean, to me, he thumps you down on the ground. He makes sure you feel the ground. That's for sure. Adler7 gets in, says, always enjoy the great stats, Morgan. Thank you so much, Adler7. We appreciate that. Looks like a Germany. Is that a Germany picture there? Kind of a soccer fan. Alan Houston, you guys can't see it. You guys can't see it. You can't appreciate it. But yeah, so that was Williams, and I believe, guys, is he coming to Elite Junior Day this weekend? I'm not sure.
I don't know if that's confirmed yet. I think there's a belief that he might be there, but I don't know if that's for sure or not.
Yeah, I'm looking real quick on my list that I have. I don't have him yet. So, okay, let me give you my list that I have and that I got from Luke Winstall, and we'll talk about the offense here, and then this will be the end of the show, okay? So, offensive guys that we know or we have heard that are coming for Elite Junior Day. That's just 2 days from now. Walker White, quarterback. Alex Taylor, wide receiver. Braylon Staley, wide receiver. Blake Franks, offensive tackle. Josiah Thompson, offensive tackle. Jamison Riggs, offensive tackle. And David Eziomume, running back. All right, so that's offense. What are your thoughts on any of those guys? Who do you feel like Clemson just desperately needs out of that list of guys?
Hey, I know you're going to kill me for this. Can you go over that list again? Because you broke up on me.
Sorry. So Walker White, Alex Taylor, Braylon Staley, David Eziomume, Josiah Thompson, Blake Franks, Jamison Riggs. So it's two wide receivers, a running back, 3 offensive tackles, and a quarterback. Of those, who do you think Clemson needs like urgently to commit soon to help this class out?
Oh, I think your guy's got to be Walker White there. I mean, it's all about the QB. It always has been. And I think they're the best people to build the class around. I mean, sometimes a guy will come along. Maybe he's a high profile guy who likes to recruit. He's a very vocal guy. I don't know if Walker White is like that in particular, but just in a general sense, the QB is kind of the most important guy in the room. So I think Walker White would be a big deal.
I think for mine, I think it's about not just about quarterback. I agree with what Alan says, but I also think you need to hit your layups as well. I think for somebody like Blake Franks, who's a kid from Greenville, he's being heavily pursued by South Carolina. He's supposedly committing on the 7th. Seal the deal with him. It's not the end of the world if he commits to South Carolina, but at the same time, I would prefer to not have upstate talent going to South Carolina. So hit your layup with him, hit your layup with Braylon Staley. I really like that kid's film as well. I think he's another one of these underrated recruits, kind of like Solomon Williams, where he'll probably and David Eziomume, who's going to shoot up these recruiting rankings towards the end of the year as people get more film of them.
You want somebody fast, you go find David Eziomume. He's going to blaze past you, man. The guy is the Flash. I'm coining it. That's his nickname, the Flash. When he gets here, if he gets here, I'm calling him the Flash. I'm calling him the Purple Flash. Or maybe the Orange Flash, whichever he wants to be. But he's the Flash because that's how fast he is.
David, go by whatever you want.
In the chat, Big Al. Jeramus Payne says, I know we recruit great nationally, but what is Clemson doing wrong to not get some of the top guys in state? Houston mentioned Greenville High School offensive tackle, Blake Franks. That's one that they need to pick up and get one of those guys that's close to home. Mm-hmm. Colin Sadler's Greenville. Tyler Brown's Greenville. So Clemson seems to have some traction there. Al, do you think they're doing something wrong in South Carolina?
I'll tell you what, Houston looks like he really wants to answer this first, so I'm going to let Houston go first here.
I've been sitting on this one for a while because I've seen this a lot lately. I don't think people in South Carolina understand how hard and difficult it actually is for Clemson and really a lot of other schools to gain traction in the lower state of South Carolina. All right. Look, whether you like it or not, if you're a Clemson fan, South Carolina fans outnumber Clemson fans in this state. Mm-hmm. South Carolina as a product is a bigger product in the state of South Carolina, especially outside of the upstate. So anything south of, say, Clinton or Lawrence, you're going to see a lot of South Carolina families, a lot of South Carolina fans, and that's what happens, especially when you get towards, especially in the PD area, say like Josiah Thompson, who's from Dillon. Clemson has gotten a couple guys out of Dillon before, but it's hard to get guys out of there. A lot of those guys end up going to South Carolina. And in the lower state, you have somebody like Cam Pringle commit, who really he had just been planning on going there the whole time because it was close by. That's a lot of the options they get there. A lot of in-state guys go to the University of South Carolina. I generally say if you've got a family member that went there, or if you've got a family member that was a fan there, generally South Carolina is going to land that player. We don't know how they pan out. They may or may not. Cam Pringle could end up being great. Josiah Thompson could end up going there. But you have these battles like in the upstate. There's not necessarily a tie-in with South Carolina, and that's why you got to hit those layups. It's hard to recruit your own state when you're the smaller of the two public schools, and you're kind of in an odd area of the state. So that's why you're dealing with something like that. It's not necessarily Clemson's doing anything wrong. They took their shot. It's just you're already kind of dealing with location when you're dealing with those types of players.
Al, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't think Clemson's necessarily doing anything wrong. The only thing they did wrong is lose this game and lost their streak. I think that, a lot of these relationships are built over the last couple of years. So most people will say, yeah, one game probably doesn't mean anything. But you have been able to sell to in-state prospects that you are completely dominating South Carolina. And unfortunately, what they did at the end of this year was show everybody that gap's closed. There's no way they should have been within a few touchdowns of us at Death Valley. I mean, we beat them last year with the same quarterback that we wanted to complain about by 30 in their building. Okay, so it was not a good look to lose to South Carolina at the end of the season, and I think that's a detriment. But like Houston said, lower state, Midlands, down on, they're getting almost all of those players because they grow up South Carolina fans. That's just the way it works. We almost never get anybody out of Dillon. We've got a couple, and I think Houston's right, a couple. But South Carolina gets players from there all the time. So it's just a difficult thing to start out with. But when they're in Greenville, like you said, we've got to get Franks, and Frank seems to be, kind of up in the air right now. A lot of people will say, yeah, he's probably going to end up at Clemson, but there's a lot of other people that say South Carolina feels confident there. And if they go 0 for 3, these South Carolina linemen, that's gonna look bad. So they're going to really need to make an impression this weekend and go ahead and seal that one up, as Houston mentioned.
Guys, I hate to do this to you, but I wanted to bring up his film real quick because we had it on the list here. This is Blake Franks. Yep. And since we talked about him, I think it's important to bring him up because obviously the fans are looking forward to possibly, what Clemson can do, getting back in maybe some good graces with these South Carolina, prospects that are out there. Let me bring up Blake Franks, Greenville High School, Greenville, South Carolina. So not too far away from us. 3-star overall right now, 32nd best offensive tackle and the 7th best player in the state of South Carolina. Has 15 total offers: Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Florida State. Just recently offered by Georgia Tech, Auburn, Miami. He took an unofficial visit in September. He took an unofficial visit to Florida State in October. So he's definitely been on the recruiting trail. Again, 6'5", 6'6", 310 pounds. Let me pull up his film real quick and we'll take a look at it. I'm going to pull up Solomon's stuff. Let me pull this up real quick. So, all right. So Blake Franks doesn't have like a full on junior highlight yet. Right. But I pulled Northwestern and South Point. Which one you want me to do first? Either one?
Yeah, I don't care.
All right, so we'll pull up Northwestern highlights first. When that goes away, I'll pull up some South Point highlights as well. When you're looking at an offensive lineman, you're looking at someone that's around 6'5", 280, and obviously you've got that and then some with Blake Franks. And someone that can dominate the line of scrimmage, that puts the high school guys in front of him on their back regularly and can get downfield 5 yards or more, really kind of at will. Has great knee bend and balance, doesn't get overpowered or off balance and pushed out of the way, and has great pad level as well. Houston, when you're looking at his film, obviously, I don't know have you seen him in person? But if not, when you look at his film, what are your thoughts?
I mean, a lot of what you said, I think the one thing that everyone will be interested if he commits to Clemson is, being able to put on that weight. 280, obviously, you want to boost that up to over 300 pounds and more if you can. I know that there's some guys that you're looking at that are across that threshold, so it's really important to do that. But as far as that goes, he is nimble.
Now I have him at 310 on 24/7.
Well, he said 280, so that's why I was.
Okay, sorry.
He was talking about your prototype.
I have him at, excuse me, let me take that back.
Prototype.
6'6", 310. Sorry.
Okay. Prototype. Okay. So 310. So he's got the weight. All right. So 310. He's nimble on his feet. You've already got a great sized O lineman right there. Here's the one thing that I don't think people really understand that they're getting into this. Out of all the divisions that you look at in the state of South Carolina, 4A is pretty tough. You look at the highlights here. They're playing Northwestern. And if you're familiar with the state of South Carolina, Northwestern should not be in 4A. They're a 5A school. So they're playing some difficult competition here. And he's holding his own, man. He's doing his thing against some stellar competition in the state of South Carolina. He's got size. He's nimble. He's not really letting the defensive end dictate anything. He's taking the defensive end where he wants to go. That's a lineman terminology of if he's trying to get the outside, keep taking him to the outside. If you want him to go to the inside, just put him on his belly, and that's what he tends to do. So he does the little things great. He's obviously a little bit of a project as far as some of the other things to do, but I think he's got all the right intangibles to be a great offensive lineman at Clemson.
All right, now here's some film from him playing against South Point. Al, any of your thoughts? I mean, these are not edited films, so normally you have a big bubble around him or a circle. He typically plays left tackle, and his number is 71. I know it's really small and probably grainy, so you probably can't tell, but he's typically going to be on the left tackle side.
Yeah, it was a little more difficult to watch his film because of that, as you were talking about. But look, I mean, this guy's huge. He's got certainly he's got more than the prototypical size, as you were talking about earlier, Morgan. I mean, this guy just swallows people up. I noticed in the first couple of highlights that I saw, I like how he was really able to keep his hands inside on his blocks, which is obviously very important for an offensive lineman. Guy plays through the whistle. He will run block you 20 yards down the field if that's what it takes, and you can see that in several of his highlights. It looks to me now when he gets 20 yards down the field, his hands get a little outside. He might have to trim that up a little bit in college, but I love the fact that he is blocking you 20 yards downfield. It looks to me like his foot speed is probably going to be better suited for guard, and that's going to be a huge guard. That's going to be somebody that's going to be able to move some people on the inside. So going back to his blocking, until the whistle though, that's hard to teach. Mean streaks just can't be taught.
Yeah, I like the film for sure, and obviously he has that height and weight, to boot as well. So again, that's film on Blake Franks. So we've done 4 guys so far. We did KJ Bolden. We started with Walker White. We did KJ Bolden after that, Solomon Williams, and Blake Franks on the list. We will cut those up and put those out on the YouTube channel if you missed anything tonight. So make sure you do that. And, we also had some discussion about Clemson recruiting in the state and different issues there. Let's take a look. Let me see if there's any other hot topics before we go. Baseball season, preseason practice is starting, and they are inviting the media. Guys, we can go down on Friday if you guys want to go there. I know Houston already told me no. Alan, if you want to go, you can go check out practice. Maybe say hello to Cooper Engel and, give him a big shout out, have him to come on the show. I'm just saying, Al, take off work early. It starts at 3:30. Just letting you know right now, you can go to practice, Al.
Oh, I
can't hear you. Uh-oh.
That's because my wife walked in the room, and so I turned my microphone off.
Oh, excuse me. Well, tell her to be quiet.
Unbelievable. When is it? Is it tomorrow or is it next Friday?
Tomorrow, 3:30. Okay. I already put your name down. Good luck.
Put my name down. All right, good.
And by the way, softball gets underway. It's getting started as well. The orange and purple game is on February 4th, I believe. And you got Valerie Cagle, Mackenzie Clark, Aaliyah Logaleo have been selected to the ACC preseason all ACC team. So looking forward to that. Hey, let me get in and let me see if you're on the screen here. Hold on, let me see. It will be final thoughts, and you guys won't be on the screen. Okay, yeah, I'm looking here. You guys are ready. All right. So, Al, we'll go with you first. Give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think I remember to turn the microphone back on this time, so that's a good start. Final thoughts are really just about Elite Junior Day. I mean, like we talked about earlier, this is a very big weekend for Clemson. You know, really not only planting, but cultivating the seeds for this upcoming class. I think we need to land some big ones from this particular event. I would love to get a Walker White, you know, pretty soon after this event. Blake Franks, if he does indeed announce on February 7th, obviously that would be a huge get as well. And I do want to echo this before we get into him, because we haven't really broken down the receivers as much. But I, too, am a huge fan of Braylon Staley's film and really like him amongst the receivers that we have offered. I think he's very underrated. But so this is a good time for Clemson to get in with those guys and really, further those relationships.
Thank you so much, Big Al, for being a part of the show tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching the show with us. Mr. Houston Burnett, final thoughts.
Well, I'm going to talk about something that we didn't talk about tonight because I think they deserve to be mentioned. Today, an article came out on RubBingTheRock.com written by yours truly about the S word regarding Clemson basketball. And what is the S word? Is this basketball team, could they be special? And I don't want to say anything yet, but they are trending in a very positive direction. They're doing a lot of the things that the best Clemson teams in Clemson history have done as regards to basketball, and they're coming down to a key stretch. 10 games to go in the conference schedule. It's actually a pretty favorable schedule. And like we say with Clemson recruiting on Junior Day, they need to hit their layups. So that includes this weekend and on Tuesday, going and ending the streak at Florida State. They have a 7-game losing streak down in Tallahassee. Florida State's down this year. It's time for Clemson to end that streak and get to 10-1. 10-1 in ACC play for basketball.
10-1. Wow. I don't even know. They've never done this in the history. They've never been this good. So at least in ACC play. And so it's exciting to see as a Clemson fan. And we're a basketball school now, at least for now. But getting ready to be a baseball and a softball school as well. Again, as Houston mentioned, Saturday, 5 p.m. on the ACC network, you've got Clemson at Florida State. And then Tuesday, coming up at Boston College, the last game in February, 7 p.m., again on the ACC network. Hey, this is Morgan Thomas on behalf of Big Al, Alan Adams, and Mr. Houston Burnett. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Catch us at The Morgan T Show on Twitter, The Morgan T Show on YouTube, and The Morgan T Show over on Instagram. We appreciate everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great weekend. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.